Hi everybody, we're at the National Koi Show in Shongweni, KwaZulu-Natal, and basically at this Koi Show and at the Shongweni Polo Club, we are now, as you can see, the judges are busy in front of me, busy judging the ponds on the inside, and but we just want to welcome everybody, and then also just to let you know that we are at KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa, and Shongweni means the column of smoke in the Zulu language, one of the black languages. And basically it comes from the Ugedi waterfall, which is nearby, because of the plume of waterfall mist. So that's where they call it the column of smoke, Shongweni. We also want to take a trip back and have a look on yesterday with the benching as the fish were arriving, and then we had the benching officer, the chief benching officer, that would then categorize and evaluate each fish, whether they are suitable to enter the competition, that they are not injured or ill in any way whatsoever, and of course then in their various categories that they get categorized. So what we're going to do, without further ado, let us go and have a look at what happened yesterday. With me now is Dean Brits. He is the benching officer for the national show. Dean, how has it gone so far?
It's been pretty good, Kevin. We've got about 41 show vets, pretty good turnout. They're all 3-meter vets, and we limited to 5 meters of fish in a vet. I guess we're still busy tallying up all the entries, but I think we've probably got about 350 to 400 show koi.
Nice.
Which is pretty good. We've had 2 benching teams running, which we call it benching when the entrants bring their koi in. And what we did this year, we actually split it into 2 days. Instead of all doing today, we actually split. Some of the entrants came in yesterday, and it just makes it a bit easier to get through all the koi and to classify, measure them, look for diseases, look for transport damage, and then to feed it through to our admin team, hard-working admin team, on the computer to put all the answers and the varieties and the sizes into judging files for tomorrow's actual judging procedures. And that's, yeah.
And of course you are a ZNA official judge as well.
Yes.
So you'll be part of the judging tomorrow.
Yes, we'll be judging tomorrow as well. I think we may have 3 teams. I'm not going to jump the gun. I'm not sure what teams have been set up.
Sure.
So we'll probably have 3 teams of judges, and with judging helpers, assistants, volunteers that will do the benching and the scribing and the netting. We bowl the sizes 1 to 5 tomorrow when we judge, so we can inspect them. They all get the same consideration in a bowl,
yes,
which is clearer.
Yes.
And the bigger size is size 6, which is up to 60 centimeters, from 52 onwards to 60 and up. We start just guiding them with a net. We don't actually bowl those because they're too big and we don't want to damage them at all.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I mean, of the largest fish are very close to 1 meter.
I think there's one here, actually just over a meter, 1.01, I think, in the far vat over there.
Yes.
And the same entrant, I think, has some bigger fish at home, but due to the damage that you can pick up, or basically it's very difficult to bring such a big fish. He's got some at 1.15 meters. But it's a lot of risk to bring them and transport them, so
yeah,
he didn't bring them to the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I must say, you know, the layout is very nice. I do believe that the public's going to enjoy themselves. And of course, just for the public to know as well, each VAT judging that's been judged has got a number allocated. They'll see the big numbers on the ponds, and of course, you know, that's basically those that have entered into the show for judging.
Yeah.
But I mean, the location is great, and yes, you know, we're very hopeful for a very good show.
I think we will have a great show. The weather's looking good for tomorrow. It's a very family-friendly country sort of atmosphere where we are. We're very lucky to have the privilege actually of using a little piece of this wonderful Shongweni Polo Club venue here, where there's a lot of horse shows on the go. We have international polo matches just on our right, about 100 meters down there. Been many held at this venue.
Okay.
And it's absolutely awesome country venue, very
nice.
picturesque. Ideally situated with a flat field, very family friendly. We've got a lot of families coming out over the weekend, and we also have a big farmers market just down the road on a Saturday, so a lot of families end up going there and then making their way here, which is very nice for us.
Yeah. Well, for a national show, the fish that I've seen, big fish, so the public are in for a really interesting day out to come and have a look at. If you wanted to see big fish, this is it.
Yeah, there's some, when you talk about big fish, it's very interesting, we normally, the big fish that most of our hobbyists have are the single coloured fish.
Yes.
What we call the ogons and the kawari mujis and so on. But we've actually got some gigantic, actually, what we call gosanki, which is your main sort of show varieties that win a lot of the prizes, the big prizes at the show. And we've got some close to a metre here. It's one of the biggest gosankis of the quality that it is that I've seen in South Africa.
Yes.
So quite something to come and see it at this show.
Dean, every show there is some unusual fish that are on show, but also with the regulations that have progressed through time. This apparently is something very different. Can you tell us a little bit about the fish and how it is now classified?
Sure. One of our classifications for show varieties is a Tancho variety. Normally the Tancho is a round red marking confined only on the head, as round as possible. That variety has now been expanded to include koi that are also metallic, so the underlay in the body is also metallic. So it has the Tancho marking, but you could see the metallic on the body. Those koi are now included in Tancho variety as well. This is a new amendment, which to me and to a lot of judges I think makes sense. So this is the first one we've seen this year in our shows after COVID, which we're just starting to have shows again.
Yes.
And this was a recent amendment about a year ago by ZNA, our ruling body.
Okay.
And it's the first one I've seen where I've actually benched it at a show that has fallen under that new amendment. So that would have been in what we call a kari moyo, which is a patterned 2-color or more patterned koi with a metallic underlay. So it goes in a metallic variety with patterned koi. It now goes in Tancho because of the Tancho marking.
Right.
The further amendment to this, which we haven't got one here, is we could have had the Tancho marking of any color. It could have been a brown marking, but as long as there's only one marking of that color, and nowhere else in the body of the koi, which includes the fins, the pecs, they're all part of the body. So as long as it's confined on the head, they're not always a round, pure round marking, but from a judging point of view, that is a more
desired, appreciated,
merited when it's as round as that one is. But so very unusual koi, and first one, very nice to be able to apply the rules to follow ZNA as we do, and to see a variety that they have amended, and we are absolutely with them. It makes absolute sense, and we're finding the entrants are also very happy with that rule amendment.
Dean, okay, so what we've also, I've seen that there's a difference also now with the classification between Asagi and Shusui. Can you just elaborate a little bit on that for us?
Yes, certainly, Kevin. So ZNA, our official group that we follow in Japan, our world body, have long split Asagi and Shusui into two different show classes for benching and classification purposes, as ZNA shows. Asagi is what we call an eye vignette. It's blue, so you get a blue ground color with a netting through the scalation. And Shusui is basically a Deutz version of an Asagi. It's basically a non-scaled Asagi.
Right.
With you often get a bit of scales just along the lateral line and along the dorsal fin. But the appearance of the Shusui, the Asagi also develops what we call he, red pattern, normally in the pecs, ego he on the side of the cheeks, and eventually it gets more along the dorsal fin, and often up on the sides you get different variants of Asagi.
Right.
But as they get older, normally more and more he comes up and mixes with the blue vignette on the top. The Shusui, the non-scaled version, has a sort of whitish, bluish ground color without any scales, and a latitudinal pattern, normally of a sort of a he pattern going up on the sides. So to judge those two koi together, you're comparing a non-scaled fish with a different pattern type completely to a scaled fish. So it's very hard to actually judge them together. We were doing that purely because of quality considerations, to get enough of each variety of sufficient quality. We now are following ZNO. We believe the quality is improved, that the hobbyists are importing from Japan and also from the local breeders. And we split it now from this year on into two show varieties, Asagi on its own and Shusui on its own. There's also quite interesting things going back. I think we spoke about it earlier about lineage. You want to mention anything on Asagi?
Yes, I was just saying that Asagi from Magoi into Asagi, if one looks at the breeding line, Shusui is a little bit way down the line in terms of how it's developed. And I was just saying that Asagi, for me, it merits its own category, and that's nice to see. Tell me a little bit also about the scalation and the gin pattern that you were talking about just now.
Right. Okay. So Asagi is basically has a vignette type pattern, like a netting pattern, using a fishing net. So we've got scalation elements to an Asagi which are very important. And in each scale we have sort of an eye underlay. We get the whole underlying base color of the Asagi is sort of one tone of blue,
right.
Often a lighter or darker blue.
Yes.
And often it's the same or a different darker, slightly darker, what we call a filling of the scale pocket,
right,
which forms a vignette effect.
Okay.
With a different tone of blue.
Yes.
And that is your Asagi. And then we get a he underlay, which is red color, almost what we call like an orangey, a fiery bara he coming up, and we get that in the pecs of the Asagi. We get it on the aga he on the side, on the cheeks, and it often goes through the dorsal and it comes up on the side.
Okay.
And that's your basic Asagi type coloration and specifics of the variety.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were mentioning about the scalation.
Right. Yes, sorry.
About
Okay.
the
All
gin
right, so
patterns.
what has happened of late, especially Asagi lineage in Japan, whatever we are currently producing from different breeders, there's a lot of what we call Cardo Ginrin scalation coming out on Asagi and the vignetting. So at the back of each scale pocket, almost lining in a half circle,
right.
which you'll get like that, there's a very shiny edge to each, which is Ginrin, and we call it Cardo Ginrin.
Cardo, right.
So previously, a few years ago, that Asagi may have been moved to another variety called Kinjinrin, with similar koi of different variants, all with Kinjinrin scalation.
Right.
The Cardo Gin variant of that scalation was probably the least populous or the least meritorious.
Right.
So the other koi that it may come up against there would have full scales of Ginrin.
Right.
And obviously a lot more bling.
Yes.
So very hard to compete in that category.
That makes
only
sense.
that little bit of Ginrin. So we decided, because of so many of them coming out now, that going forward, that Cardo Ginrin scalation Asagi would stay as an Asagi, and they could compete fairly against another Asagi that didn't have the Cardo Ginrin.
Right.
Whereas
Okay.
it wouldn't really compete fairly in a Ginrin scalation class with other koi that had a complete Ginrin scalation right across the whole scale. And ZNA also follow that, and we had some directives from the chairman, previous chairman of ZNA a few years ago, confirming this very interpretation.
Well, it just shows you how koi worldwide has developed and fine-tuned to such a professional level that it makes it even more fair for each fish to be categorized in the right facet.
Absolutely, I think it's very fair to the hobbyists, and it makes
Yes.
sense from a judging point of view on
Absolutely.
what we use to judge our criteria. Yeah.
Well, Dean, thank you so much for clarifying
Right.
that. It's really very, very interesting, and it's a learning curve always. That's why, you know, judging, as you know, it's a lifelong learning curve, and we appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.